Penguin Random House Audio presents The Last Hope, a Maggie Hope mystery by Susan Elia Macneal. Read for you by Susan Duerden. In memory of OSS spies, Aileen, Countess of Romanones, and Mo Berg. Underneath the glamour of Chanel beats the throbbing pulse of history. The history of fashion, and the history of the world. Marie-Pierre Lange, French journalist. It is possible that the Germans will have, by the end of this year, enough material accumulated to make a large number of gadgets, atomic bombs, which they will release at the same time on England, Russia, and this country. Letter from Hans Albrecht Better and Edward Teller to Robert Oppenheimer, about their worries that the American effort wasn't moving fast enough. From Craig Nelson's The Age of Radiance. Oh, lay that pistol down, babe. Lay that pistol down, pistol-packin' mama. Lay that thing down before it goes off and hurts somebody. Al Dexter's Pistol-Packin' Mama, sung by Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters. Prologue. July 1943. General Walter Friedrich Schellenberg, cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth, raced his black Mercedes coupe through the dense pine forest, and then up the cobblestone drive to the gates of the looming castle. Only that morning he'd been at his desk in Berlin when he'd received word Reichsfuhrer Heinrich Himmler wanted to see him. No reason had been given, and none was needed. When the Reichsfuhrer asked for something, anything, it was done immediately. Schellenberg knew Wewelsburg well. Himmler had taken over the Renaissance castle early in the Nazis' rise to power. It was to be his own vision of Wagner's Parsifal, the place where he would raise up a new order of Teutonic knights, a brotherhood of the racially pure. Over the years, Himmler had fashioned it as his personal lair and a shrine to the SS elite. There was an enormous dining hall inspired by stories of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, complete with inscribed silver plates and special chairs with hand-carved names. Schellenberg had always questioned Himmler's obsession with a British king who fought Saxon invaders, but he was too politic to ever bring it up. Nor did he ever comment on what he thought of as Himmler's interest in the occult, astrology, and ancient Aryan history. Because Schellenberg had grown up in the Saarland, a German region on the French border, he spoke both German and French fluently. His mastery of French and his astonishing facility with other tongues, not to mention his ambition and acumen, helped his entry into the Nazi Party. Reinhard Heydrich himself had recruited Schellenberg from the University of Bonn, where he'd been a member of a far-right fraternity and studied law. And under Heydrich's mentorship, he rose quickly to the top of the Sicherheitsdienst, the SS intelligence agency known as the SD. It was different from, and often in competition with, Wilhelm Canaris's more conventional military intelligence service, Abwehr. Before leaving Berlin, Schellenberg had carefully donned his black dress SS uniform, including the Iron Cross First-Class Medal pinned at his throat. A slim man in his early 30s, with thick hair brushed back from a broad forehead and large, wide-set eyes, he was aware of the power of the uniform. He used it alongside his devastatingly charming smile, despite the long white dueling scar on his cheek. But while he looked the part of a conquering Nazi hero, on his left pinky was a large gold signet ring containing a cyanide capsule, just in case. The war, now spread across the globe, was unraveling for Germany. Hitler's glory days of the late 30s and early 40s were a memory. The Soviets had stopped the German advance at Stalingrad and forced the Sixth Army to surrender. Hamburg had burned to the ground in a devastating air raid. The Germans had been defeated brutally in both North Africa and Italy. At the end of the Casablanca Conference in Morocco, the Allies had announced their decision to accept nothing less than the unconditional surrender of the Axis. Most of the Nazi leaders had realized winning the war was no longer a possibility. While a few still dreamed of a devastating new weapon, a fission bomb or long-range ballistic missile, most had given up hope. They knew it was just a matter of time before the Allies invaded France, and with the Soviets pushing relentlessly toward Germany, the situation would soon become dire. As Schellenberg approached, he noted the long red swastika flags, which had once snapped so proudly in the western breeze, were now still. The castle, with its striking thick stone walls, narrow slit windows and turrets, looked more like a prison. At the sentry box before the castle's moat, 2 SS officers waved for Schellenberg to stop. He hit the brakes, rolling his eyes at the ornate lightning strike SS runes carved into the gate's stonework. A sergeant approached the driver's side, clicked his heels together, and saluted smartly. "Heil Hitler!" Schellenberg rolled down the window and returned a salute with less enthusiasm. The guard peered into the car. Beside him was a large-jawed, muscular Alsatian, teeth bared, that was pulling on a black leather leash. "General Schellenberg, Reichsfuhrer Himmler is expecting you." The sergeant was also in dress uniform, his empty jacket sleeve pinned to hide his missing left arm. "He's asked me to escort you to the West Wing. The corporal will attend to your vehicle. Follow me, sir." Schellenberg exited the car, cracking his neck and stretching his arms after the long ride from Berlin. The air was charged. A cold front was moving in. He gazed up at the high stone walls of the castle, its 3 phallic towers covered in long red banners, glowing like coals in the late afternoon gloam. "Subtle," he said under his breath, spitting his cigarette to the gravel, grinding it under the heel of his well-polished boot. "So very subtle." "General?" the sergeant called back over his shoulder. "Did you say something?" Schellenberg shook his head and followed. Inside, the castle was silent as a monastery, and the cool, damp air smelled of mouldering tapestries. Schellenberg was left in an oversized sitting room in the first tower, lit from above by an iron-wheel chandelier. The dark oak furniture was heavy. A large sword collection covered the thick walls. He looked up at the Führer's portrait, hung in the place of honor over the fireplace's mantel. The standard-bearer portrayed a young and suspiciously handsome Hitler in profile as a medieval knight, on horseback and wearing shining armor, carrying the SS flag. On the stone floor in front of an empty stone hearth, a skinned lion grinned up at Schellenberg, with yellowed teeth, glass eyes glinting. The general crossed his arms and faced the lion, meeting its eyes, taking its measure. Through the mullioned windows, he could hear the rumbling engines of fighter planes flying low. American, by the sound of them, probably on their way to Berlin. Everything shook, and the overhead lights flickered. He took a swastika-engraved platinum case from his breast pocket, selected a cigarette, and lit it, blowing out a succession of rings that rose and dissolved over the painted Führer's head like vanishing halos. "No cigarettes!" Heinrich Luitpold Himmler snapped. His reedy voice, with its light Bavarian twang, echoed in the tower room. The Reichsfuhrer was short, and now almost frail, his hooded eyes magnified by round glasses. He had a receding chin and small, delicate hands. Unlike Schellenberg, he was in mufti, wearing a dark grey chalk-striped wool suit and heavy gold watch. His hair parted severely and brilliantined in place. For someone who revered warriors and knights in shining armor, Himmler appeared the opposite, looking more like the chicken farmer he'd once been than Hitler's right-hand man. "I beg your pardon, Reichsfuhrer," Schellenberg said smoothly, bowing and clicking his heels. His smoking had been no mistake, though. While Schellenberg and Heydrich had been on a first-name basis, Himmler treated Schellenberg formally. Himmler had never once, even after so much time, uttered his colleague's Christian name. To retaliate, Schellenberg liked to infuriate the Reichsfuhrer with his smoking. He crushed out the cigarette in a large silver cup, evocative of King Arthur's Holy Grail. "How may I be of service?" Himmler gave a smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Walk with me," he ordered the younger man. "We've much to discuss."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?